Hello, everyone. Just please let me know if you're here because I can't see anything in this YouTube interface. And I'll just wait. It just shows me that there are 5 concurrent viewers. And I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes because I know more than 5 said they were going to come. So I'll just hang on for a couple of minutes and then we can get started. Hi, Liana. Anybody else here? Oh, I see there's 6 now. That's good. Okay, so a little behind the scenes view while we get started. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully you can. So as you can see, I've got my laptop here with uh, YouTube on it so I can see what's happening. But there's about a 20-second delay between when I do something. So if I clap my hand like that, it comes up only on the screen there after about 25 to 30 seconds. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's quite a bit of delay. So I have to avoid looking there because otherwise it will confuse me. But I'm just going to wait another couple of minutes and then we'll get started. So while we wait to get started, just a little bit about what's going on here. I wouldn't normally show my my setup, my environment when I'm giving a class or anything like that. But because this is about how to do streaming, that's why I'm kind of showing this behind the scenes view. So just bear with us for another couple of minutes. I know everybody comes late, so I'll just give it another few minutes. You can see I also got my little yellow sticky notes over here, so I know what to do, just in case I forget. Okay, so the numbers are fluctuating up and down, and it's 5 minutes, so I think it's time that we can get started. So for those of you who don't know anything about me, I'm Derek Keats, and I'm out of the picture so it seems. Let me just get me back in the picture here. And I've been involved in using technology in teaching and learning for a long time. I got involved in e-learning before it had a name back in about 1993. I wrote probably one of the first learning management systems starting in 1995, and I've been doing teaching and learning online off and on ever since. I've been involved in this at 2 universities, but right now I'm actually in the private sector. I work with startups and we do a lot of conferencing, and the current startup that I'm working with is a cloud native company. We don't actually have any physical infrastructure. All of us work from home. We're about 12 people. Everything we do is cloud based. So this is kind of both my day job and my fun time as well. So let me just talk a little bit about the setup before we get into how to actually get started with live streaming with free and open source software. I think since I've got the the camera on over here, and this view here on the screen that you're seeing here in the camera is actually coming from my cell phone. So it's quite an interesting setup that I've got here. So let me just go over it a little bit with you. The most important thing for live streaming is to have two monitors. I think if there was only one thing in this room that facilitated live streaming more than anything else, it's having the two monitors. Now it doesn't matter whether you've got two identical monitors like I've got on a desktop setup, or whether you're using a laptop and you have an additional monitor on the laptop. But you really must have two screens. You can't really do meaningful live streaming without two screens, because it's difficult to control what you need. A piece of software to control the stream, and you need somewhere for the stream to appear. So single most important thing, two monitors. Another important piece of equipment is the webcam, and I don't know if you can see it here behind my microphone, but let me move the microphone out of the way. Just peeping out behind there is my little webcam. That little webcam is about 12 years old. I think I got it in about 12 years ago. I brought it with me from Cape Town, and I moved here 11 years ago. So yeah, it's at least 12 years old, and it works perfectly fine. So that is the webcam. That is the image that you're seeing here on the small video. And then I have a couple of microphones, and they're Samsung, not Samsung, microphones, and they're cardioid microphones plugged into this little thing that you see here, I think, which is a mixer for a USB mixer. So basically it takes the input from the microphones and outputs it to the computer through a USB port. So I've got one microphone on a stand here, which I think you can see. Yeah. So there's the one microphone on a stand that's just out of the picture. And then there's this one here. So if I'm turning this way or I'm turning this way, you should still be able to hear me. Now, normally I wouldn't have a microphone behind me because everything that I would be doing would be over here. But I'm showing you the equipment that we're using. Now you don't need fancy microphones. Over here, I just have my little headphones that I normally use for my day job. Since we're a cloud native company, we do most of our work over video conferencing tools, and this works fine. Whatever the best tools for live streaming is the ones that you have. The ones that you don't have, well, they can't help you. Then, before I get into it again, I want to talk a little bit about the sources of input. Now, anything pretty much can be a source of input. You can use a tablet computer, little tablet computer like the Samsung. As I said, I'm using my cell phone for this input here. Things like this. I'm sure you're all familiar with this stuff. It's the ultimate in technology. And these things also work as input, and I'll show you in a minute how. Now, oftentimes, you watch videos about live streaming and stuff, and you'll get a lot of attention being placed on lights. So what I have in this room is actually just my overhead lighting, and then just above me there is a little reflector that actually reflects some of the light back down onto my bald head. And so that's useful, but it's not necessary. Just standard room lighting works fine. If you want to make it better, then you can put in other lights. I've got a little recording studio next door there, and I've got a green screen there and some smart box lights, but don't really use them for this stuff. I use them more for making actual videos. But one thing that you can do, if you're really worried about the light, and I've used this one sometimes, and this is just the light that you buy at Game Store for about, I think, 100 Rand. and they're quite popular these days because of load shedding, and you know, you can put that on and you can have lots of bright lights shining if you want the light. I got a printer there, and I can put this on top of the printer, and I can use that if I really want to look spooky. So those are some of the things that you can use as input. So I can also use my my camera as my DSLR as input as well. But I don't have the adapter that works with this camera, so I'm not using it at the moment. But you could use that as a webcam as well for input. With your cell phone, yeah, you can use any application that's on your cell phone as input as well. If I wanted to teach about birds, for example, which is my hobby, I could use the Roberts Birding app on my cell phone and output it to the screen for use as a teaching tool in the live stream. So anything that you can imagine, if you can imagine it, it can go into your live stream. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now I'm going to just move on. Just check my notes here. Oh yeah, so before I move on, I want to talk a little bit about creating assets. Now, if you can see through the camera here, this application here, which I'm going to maximize so you can see it better. This application here on this monitor is using a lot of pieces of things that make up the actual display. So if you look here, that's a broadcast from my cell phone. This is from my webcam. This is a bit of text that I put in. And down here there is a little black rectangle with a hole in it, and sitting behind that black rectangle is a video that's playing, and that's why you see the little film clips scrolling by there. So you know, there's a lot of pieces that go into making up the live stream content. So the free and open source software part of it isn't only about the actual live stream itself, but everything that I do, I only use free and open source software. So everything I do is made with free and open source software. And so to create these overlays and images and some of the slides that I use pretty much the same tools that we talked about if anybody was in my previous live streams, where we talked about photography and shooting and making educational videos. We talked about LibreOffice and LibreOffice Presenter, LibreOffice Draw. Those are the two main things that I use to create the content for here. Sometimes I have to edit things in GIMP, which is the sort of Photoshop equivalent of in the open source software world. And so everything that goes into here is all created with those open source software tools. Now let's move on to the actual live streaming. But before I do, I've got a couple of slides that I want to talk about. Now, a lot of people, when they, I guess I better turn this way because I'm not on that camera anymore. So a lot of people, when they want to create, when they want to do online teaching in the video format, they will use video meeting tools, which is okay. It works if your classes are relatively small, but it doesn't work that well for large classes. I'm just going to change my webcam here so you can see me a little bit more of me, so you can see me waving my hands in front of my bald head. So this application, as I said, is called OBS, or Open Broadcaster Software. Yeah. But nobody calls it that. Everybody calls it OBS. So live video meeting tools would be things like Skype. That would be things like Zoom, and there's some of the other things, Microsoft Teams, etc. Now, they're typically, if you're the yellow teacher here, you would be sending out a video stream, and if everybody is connected and everybody's sending video to everyone else, and it's not very efficient. It can get quite slow, and it can stall a lot, and it can be a little bit frustrating if you're trying to teach large numbers of people who are all connected, who may all have their microphones on or may all be sending text, but all the data is going back and forth between all of those machines. So those are typically live meeting tools, so they're good for hosting meetings with no more than a dozen or so, a couple of dozen people. They're good for multi-way video. So if I wanted to see you speaking now, that would be a good use for live video meetings. They're also good for low latency communications. So at the beginning of the video, I said there's about a 30-second delay between what I'm saying and what you're seeing, although you don't notice it because you're not looking at the other screen, you're not here with me in the room. But I see it if I look at the YouTube screen. It becomes very distracting because I'm seeing myself 30 seconds ago. So low latency communications avoid that because they're designed for real-time communications. But but they're bad for sending a stream to more than a few dozen people, as I said, and they're not very good for hosting big or recurring events, and they're not very good at creating high-quality live video. So, although I'm streaming now and I'm not recording because YouTube's going to record it for me, I could also be recording while I'm streaming, and I would end up with a 1920 by 1080 pixel, in other words, 1080p video. So, these are some of the things you need to take into consideration. If I go on to look at, what is live video streaming tools do. So basically, if you're the yellow teacher here, you are broadcasting to a server, and the server is broadcasting out to anybody who wants to connect. And the impact of that is you can get very high quality video. Everybody sees the video as good as they can given the network that they're on, and it doesn't have the inefficiencies of everybody communicating with everybody else at the same time. So it's good for sending a stream to a large number of people. Everybody gets the same quality. Good for hosting big events that don't really require video or audio input. I can see that you guys are there, and I can see that some people are putting things in the chat, and that's probably good enough for most things. And it's also good for, as I said, creating high quality live video. So I can stream this at 1920 by 1080p. Try doing that on something like Zoom, and you're going to struggle. But it's bad for hosting interactive meetings where everybody needs to be able to speak, and it's bad for situations where you need that real time. If you can't tolerate a 30-second delay, then this is probably not the right tool. But it's for a 30-second delay, it's not too bad. And then the other approach, which if I have time I'll show you at the end, is where you do both. So you do so the blue teacher here is going to create a stream using OBS like I'm doing here, send it out to something like Zoom or Skype, and then instead of it becoming a live stream, it just becomes a normal video meeting. So it has probably the disadvantages of both, but it does allow you to use a really cool tool like this to tee up your lectures and your classes. So that's that's basically the benefits of doing live streaming. And I personally prefer live streaming unless I actually need a real-time conversational scenario, as opposed to trying to use a conversational scenario for something that really should be one way, to take advantage of the efficiencies of that one-way communication. So now I have to read my yellow note. So I was going to talk about output, but I think I've done that already. You can output to just go back to my scene here where you can see the background. So I was going to talk about output. So there's different places that you can output the live stream. So you can output it to somewhere like Facebook. Facebook has a live streaming capability. You can output it to YouTube, like we're doing here. You can output it to Twitch. If you don't know Twitch, it's kind of a video, it's a gaming video service, but it's starting to be used for all sorts of other things as well, including teaching and learning. Or you can output it to a video on, and you can use it to actually create video. You don't have to use it just for live streaming. If I go onto my application here and I just click on the little button that says start recording, I can record instead of streaming, or I can record and stream at the same time. Whether you can do that or not depends on how much computing power you have available. And then the other place you can output, as I said, is to another video application like YouTube or Zoom. So those are some of the places that you can output. Now I'm going to just try a little trick here, and I hope it doesn't crash. So one of the challenges that I have right now on my computer is I have a AMD graphics card. And AMD graphics card's the worst thing you can have for doing any high-end graphics stuff. So one of these days when I grow up, I'm going to get an NVIDIA card. And I'm going to do something that is probably not allowed, but I'm going to do it anyway, because it's the only way I'm going to be able to show you. I'm going to start a second instance of OBS. So now, on the right-hand screen, well, you can't see the right-hand screen, but on my broadcast screen here, what you should be able to see is another instance of OBS, and it's got exactly the same setup as what I'm doing here now. But that's not what I want to use. So OBS has the concept of scene collections. So I'm going to make use of a scene collection that I created specifically for this, and it's called Webinar Blank. Well, okay, I was playing with that. Now what the Webinar Blank is doing is it's showing you what's on the other screen, but it's doing it over and over. So hence you see it disappearing into the distance. Let me just remove that. Okay, so that's blank. Now this is what you get when you start OBS, and it has the concept of, you can see here on the left hand side, it has the concept of a scene, and it has the concept of sources. So think of your scene as being like an image, for example, in Photoshop or GIMP, whatever you're used to using. Or you can think of it as a slide in a PowerPoint or LibreOffice presentation, or Keynote for those of you who are on Mac. And so those would be the scenes. So everything that you want to show as a group will be a separate scene. So then you have to think about the sources over here. The sources will be sort of like the images in your that you use in the layers in a Photoshop or GIMP file, for example, or the individual components of your slide in the presentation. So what do I mean by that? So the one thing I can't do with this second instance is I can't show you any of the cameras, because a camera can only have a single instance, and they're in the one that I'm using to broadcast at the moment. So I would have to stop that, and then you wouldn't see anything. So I can't show you any cameras, but I can show you some of the other stuff. So let's say that we're going to create a scene, and we're going to call it Introduction. Let me go back to so you can see the full stuff here. So I've just created a scene which I called Introductoin. So I will just correct my spelling there. Just like anything else, you press F2 to edit it. It's like a file in your file system. You press F2 to edit. So I've got a scene called Introduction. Now I can, I'm just going to go back to the zoom again. I can move that scene up and up. And I can remove that scene because we don't need it. Probably I should remove the scene. Okay, so we now have a scene called Introduction. Okay. Now what we would normally do is we would go over to sources and we would start adding sources. Okay, so maybe I want to add an audio source. So I would do my audio capture. So I just go, I like to give it names like audio. Some mics, and then from the list here I can pick that IO2 analog stereo, that's my Samsung mic, or I can pick my USB headset. Let me pick that one, and now that one is available here. So if I pick up my USB headset over here, you can see that it's picking up the audio from that one. So that's the first thing. The other day when I did my first webcast on photography, managing photos with open source free and open source software tools, I forgot to put an audio source in one of my scenes. Don't do that. So let's so we've got the audio source now. Now let's put an image in there. Now the normal way I would add an image is go here and pick image and upload it. I'm worried that if I do too many inserts and things with the second instance, it's going to cause it to crash. So I am not going to do that, but what I've done is I've created a dumpster, and the dumpster's got a whole lot of stuff in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an image. Let me get back to the full scene again. So I'm going to add an image, and I'm going to add an existing image. So let's pick the main scene. Okay, so that would be the image that I use when I am here, where I'm showing you the desktop with my webcam and other things here. So I'm going to add main scene as an image, and and you can see that I made it slightly too big, so we can just grab the corners there and make it the right size to fill the screen, and so now you can see how I created that scene. Now you can make scenes like that with images, overlays, things like that. I can add, for example, I can go in here and I know that I have a media source here, and I have I have a film slider, so I can go add existing. Now normally it would just be uploading, it'd be the same thing, you just upload it instead of choosing it from already uploaded ones. So there's another film going round and round. Now I don't want all of that, right? So what I can do, I can hold down the Alt key, and I can shape it to be more or less the shape that I want. And let me do that again. So let's say that's what I want. Now I want to have it down here somewhere. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move it down below the image which I seem to have lost. Sorry, let me just remove that one and add it again. Image, what was it? Main scene. Okay, so now you can see how I created that little video space there. So you can use that to do all kinds of creative things. It's not just for showing things, just to show off that you can make funky live streams. You can use it, for example, to show an educational video, or to have your, you could make a scroll, you could make a overlay with a hole in it, a circle, or maybe I want to make myself look like a bird, so I make one shaped like a bird if I was giving a talk on birds. There's lots of ways in which you can use this technique. And then let's add another video here. So maybe I'm talking about something very topical right now. So I'm going to add another video that I uploaded already. And I don't want it to fill the whole stage, so I just want it to be there. Now I want to be over here somewhere talking about it, and there I would insert my webcam, which I can't do because the webcam's in use on the other screen. So you get the idea, hopefully, that this is a pretty straightforward thing to do. And what you have here is you have scenes, you have sources. So we've just created a scene. We can create another scene. I'm just going to call it scene 2. Move it up. And we can add something else to it. We can add a browser, for example. So I'm going to just call this browser Instagram. No, what will I do? I'll do dkeys.com. Okay. Now you can see it's inserted OBS project. I don't want that. I want dkeys.com. Which probably won't come up because I just said HTML. Oh yeah, it does come up. Okay, so now I can resize that. I can trim it and crop it. I can be beside it. I can include content. Now, there are lots of other ways that you can use this technology as well. You can capture, for example, a window. So let me just create another scene and call it writing. Okay, so move it up, and so I'm going to just open an application here called Journal, and move it onto this screen so you can see. Actually, I want to capture the window, so let me rather do it this way. So I can add a window capture. Okay, so I'm going to create a new, I'm not going to bother with naming it. I am going to capture journal. Okay, so there's journal, and you can see that it's basically like a sheet of paper. So if you wanted to be teaching maths or something like that, you might want to do, you know, let me just line it up first and resize it and lock it. Now I can be writing on this, which I can't do very well with a mouse. I got a tablet for writing there. Okay, let me rather draw this and call it a cell, and call this a nucleus. So remember what I said. Input can be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Anything that you can do on your computer, on your cell phone, on your tablet, whatever it is, you can do it on here. You can use it as input. Even paper, you can use as input. So let me see where I am in my. Yeah, so that's the basics of putting together a live stream with OBS. And then, of course, the output, where does the output go? The output goes to wherever you want to stream it to. So if I go over here and I click start stream, whoops, I don't start streaming yet. But if I go over here, now you can see there's my stream, there's YouTube, and there's my key that I'm using at the moment for streaming. It's a one-time key, so even if you copy it, it won't do you any good. And that's it. Once I say OK, I've saved that, and the minute I click stream, it's going to stream the output to YouTube. So that's you know, you do exactly the same thing for Facebook. You go in. You're not seeing what I'm seeing, are you? Let's close this. Bear with me for a second. And bear with me for another second. Okay, where's my scene with nothing in it? All right, now it's nothing in it. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my desktop here. Okay, hopefully you can see this now. So, yeah, so you start streaming. Instead of choosing YouTube, let me try that again. Instead of choosing YouTube, you could choose Twitch. You can choose Facebook. You can, you know, basically stream anywhere. If you've got your own server, you can stream to it as well. So that's how you do the output. Now I want to just close this and just show you the other aspect of this, which is I'm going to just start up Zoom as soon as I find it. Okay, so I've got Zoom running here. Now, what I'm going to do, if you're using Windows or if you're using Mac, there's a GUI to do this. In Linux, we prefer to do things without having to open GUIs and things like that. And sorry, I'm just looking at the delay. It confuses me. So what I have is a little script that starts what it does is it takes the output from OBS and it turns it into a virtual webcam. Okay, so I start cam, I think I called it. Okay, so I now have, just make sure it's running. Yeah, so I have it now, the webcam is running as video 2. So I can now go into my tools, which you can't see, and open Video for Linux Sync. Tell it to use video 2. You won't be able to see this, unfortunately, because if I show it to you, let me show it to you anyway, and we'll see how it looks. I'm just going to capture itself. So you can see it's capturing its own screen, so it's repeating the capture and it goes off into infinity. But the important one is this little window here. So I'm capturing video 2 as a webcam. That's it. So that's the important piece. So I'll go back to my. Let me just change this back again. So I'll go here now, and you can see I can close this. you can see that I have Zoom open, and I'm going to just connect to Zoom in theory. Now I'm going to see, you see I've got a dummy video device as a webcam. So the minute I go to dummy video device as my webcam, then start the video. Now you can see what it's showing. It's showing you what's on what the other screen is showing. So let me rather take you to one that doesn't have itself in the picture. So now here you can see I am, can you see that? This is an interesting one. You can't see it because, it's difficult to show this because you have the same output in both places, so they're gonna just nest inside each other. But you know what you're seeing here at the moment is Zoom, and if you were connected to me on Zoom, I would be able to show you exactly what I'm showing you right now here. So whatever's on this screen, let's just put something on that screen, like a web browser or something. So this now you would be showing inside Zoom or inside Skype because it's showing it as a webcam. And that's basically how you can use a tool like this to set up a very cool presentation and then be able to stream it into something like Zoom. So I think that's at least a bit of an introduction to the concept and the basic idea of live streaming and using a live streaming tool that you can set up pretty sophisticated, live streams inside. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope it does. I hope it's useful. And Cesar, yeah, I will dump that somewhere. It's actually one command. It's mod pro v42 Linux loopback. It's just I can never remember the spelling, so I just put it in the script. And then you unload the kernel module after you're finished. So any questions? And by the way, I'm going to do more of these things. So if you like it, please like it in YouTube and follow this channel on YouTube so you can pick up more of these things if I do them, when I do them. So I'll take questions. Now I'm going to just pull my little laptop around here so I can see the screen and answer your questions if you've got any. See what I'm doing there. I'm actually trying, this is a picture, and I'm trying to click the item on the picture instead of down here. That can be confusing sometimes. Okay, so questions. I can see your comments here. Thanks, Brandon. Cesar, there's a plugin for OBS as well that works with the loopback webcam, and it is called. Let me just get it on the tools. It's called V4L2 Sync. I'll just type it in here. I'll just type V4L2 Sync. It's a plugin for OBS. You can get it on GitHub if you just Google V4L2 Sync. I struggled with figuring out how to do this, and I just came across it on Sunday, so I haven't really been using this method. But it works very well. Yeah, in one of our meetings yesterday, I popped up uh, some things, and the guys were like, "How did you do that? How did you do that?" So you'll be seen as the cool person if you can do something clever in one of these video conferencing tools. Okay, how to create a short tutorial on how to use, for example, a feature in Digicam, like screen recording. So yeah, that is not difficult to do. I will just give you a quick, let's move my laptop out of the way. I'll just give you a quick 20-second view. So I'm just going to go to my desktop with Cam, close this. Bear with me for a second because Digicam takes half an hour to open. I'm kidding, but it is a bit slow to open because it does a whole lot of stuff with its database and loading plugins and all kinds of things before it gets started. So just bear with me for a second. It's still loading. So this is what I use to do to manage my photo collection. I don't use it for processing photos, although it does a pretty good job of processing photos as well. But the question was, how would I use this tool to set up a tutorial on how to use Digicam? So here's Digicam. As you can see, I've just dragged it onto the right-hand screen. This is where having the two screens is critical. Because if I had to do this on one screen, I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. So now I have Digicam on the right screen, so you can see that, if I want to use a feature of Digicam, this is what I would do, blah, blah, blah. All of this you can present, and this is live as you're presenting. So any software that you want to give a tutorial about, you can just do it in this application, and you can move between, full desktop with your talking head, or my talking head has been shrunk. Because I didn't lock it down. One important thing is when you're looking at the screen of OBS, for the sources, each source has got a lock. So when you've got it configured the way you want it, lock it so you don't accidentally shrink it like I just did. So anything you want to teach about Digicam now you can do here. For example, if you want to look at what do I use a lot in Digicam? I use captions a lot. So you would type your caption here, blah blah blah. You can add tags. I have a lot of tags, so I can choose from my tags or type in a tag and add it. So this is how you would do that kind of a thing where you actually giving a tutorial on software, and it works very well for that purpose. And the thing is, I'm going to just start another instance again quickly just to show you this. So if you look over here on the right-hand side, you see that it's got start streaming, start recording. So the minute you start recording, you're actually recording. So you don't have to use it for streaming. You can actually do a live. You can actually do a recording tutorial as well. So if I go click now on my application, start recording, and you can see that I'm recording at the moment, and I'm moving this around, and blah blah blah, and then I stop recording, and then I go to my home folder.
So I'm talking to myself here because I need to check the audio on this.
Earlier, the same method. And you can see that I'm recording at the moment, and I'm moving this around, and blah blah blah. This is very quick to do for running tutorials. And the great thing about using an application like this for doing tutorials is you can actually mix the live application with slides. You can put in text. You can use the camera behind you to show what you're doing, and you can just mix and match a whole lot of things together. So it's also a very good tool, much better tool for creating screencasts than a screencast application is. Any other questions? Exactly, yeah. You can record. If you're using what is this tool, V5 something or the other, I can't remember what it is now, that allows you to put embed questions in videos and things like that. It's another open source tool. Beautiful tool. If you upload the video, for example, to YouTube or into your LMS, I think certainly I know it works with Moodle, another open source tool. You can actually put questions inside the video, so you can actually do an interactive tutorial where the students pause the video and answer questions and move on, or where if they get only 60% or less, they go back. And there's a lot of things like that you can do with these videos as well. And as you said, they're not high tech; they're just basic stuff. You can also upload the video to an LMS and have the students watch it, and then have an interactive session with them at the end of it as well, using a normal video conferencing tool. Any other questions? Questions, comments, feedbacks, recommendations, anything else you would like to see for the next session? I'll do another one next week this time. Anything to do with free and open source software. I don't do anything else. If you want Photoshop or any of those things, you have to find someone else to do it, but I'm happy to do anything about open source. I was thinking of doing one on Linux for Windows users, maybe using something like elementary Linux, which is probably the closest thing outside of Mac that you can get to a Mac, to iOS. Okay, going once. All right, so that's it. I think we can close up. I think I'll move my camera there. We can close up, but as I said, thanks for taking the time. For me, this is a practice. I'm starting to do some teaching this way, and I wanted to get some practice. So I thought the best way to practice is to do some live streaming myself. And so you guys are guinea pigs, but hopefully it's still useful, and there will be more of them. So like the scroller says, if you enjoyed it, if you liked it, click like and share and whatever it is they say in YouTube videos. What is it? Click like and subscribe, etc. And hopefully, if you want, we'll see you again next week. Bye.